Hello, guys. Just give me a minute. Let me get set up. Oh, all right, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We're hearing you.
Let me check my. Oh, hold on. I can't hear you. 1 second. What am I using? Okay. Using speakers. Okay. Come on. Mic check. All right. Let me see if I can hear you guys. I don't. Let me see. Mic testing. Is anybody speaking? Or is it just me that's not hearing?
Yes, sir. We're hearing you, sir.
Oh, okay. And I was just being quiet. Let me think that something wrong with my speaker. Or is it that everyone is just kind of sobered from the fact that you guys are still here and not on your study tour? Is that why these guys are so quiet?
Sir, we're just tired, sir.
Oh, you're tired. Oh, hold on. There's some more people here. All right, welcome all. Sorry for the delayed start. We have a little bit of a different setup today. We're gonna be moving on another topic. And as usual with technology, some things never go according to plan. Anyway, so guess what? We're still here and we're still going. So next week again, right? But don't worry, next week will be the week. Right? Oh, I see people laughing. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
in regards to the submission for the assignment two, I think something is wrong with the form as well. We can only select one of the images.
Oh, right. It's not allowing you to select the two that you did. All right. That's my bad. I will update the form because I think it was the same issue with the other one. Right? So
Yes, sir.
yeah, man, I will correct that. Right. So the reason that there is a little bit of a different setup today is we're moving to a new topic, right? And I have with me here a second, this over here. I have with me here a second camera, and I have 3 devices here. I have what one would describe as a affordable phone, all right? Are you guys seeing the camera okay, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Right. I have another one here of what one would describe as a expensive phone. And I have my trusty camera here that one would describe as a professional camera, right? And I'm sorry I don't have an iPhone with me, but this would represent the phone that is up in cost. So iPhone included would fall in this category. This would represent, what most persons have. Anybody can tell me what kind of phone this is? Come on, phone people. What kind of phone is this?
It looks like one of those Chinese brands, like Oppo or Xiaomi.
You are incorrect, but it is in the affordable category. Anybody else want to take the guess? It's disguised in this case intentionally so that you won't find out.
Oh, sorry, Samsung, sir.
All right, cool. Samsung what?
One of the A series, sir.
Look like AC. So the menu cannot give it away well now.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I don't have to ask if anybody knows what kind of phone this is, right?
So Z Flip.
All right. No, not Flip. Flip is the girly one.
Fold.
Right. Is there anybody else that think the Flip is the girly one, or is it just me? I think it's a little girly, and the Fold is more manly. I was expecting to hear some female reaction that I'm being, sexist. No reaction from the females. You agree as well that this one is more manly and not girly?
Sir, we don't know about that phone.
Seeing this phone.
All right, cool. And then, is there anybody here that has a SLR camera? Anybody? Or mirrorless camera in the professional camera category? Share by the raising of your virtual hands. No? I don't see any hands come up. Okay. Okay, anybody has access to a camera in this category? Your friends, family, parents, uncle? Nobody? All right. Okay. All right. So when you guys go on study tour, there is no designated photographer in the class, like somebody who always have them camera on them, and that person is like always the person that is taking pictures. Any unofficial designated photographers in the class? No?
Aspiring photographer, sir.
Aspiring. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Well, we are going into the next category of in the next topic in advanced computing 2, and it has to do with cinematography in architecture, right? And well, I'm using my laptop here as my camera because I normally use this for my webcam. It's a little bit overkill for a webcam, but I didn't get it to use it as a webcam, obviously, but it can be, so why not? All right. So this is why we're looking a little bit different today in the setup. And I try to bring 3 categories here. Now, normally, let me see, pre-COVID, this used to be a physical kind of situation. So I would carry these things into the classroom, and people can get to touch it and feel it and get the idea of what it's like. When COVID hit, we moved it to online. And then we went a little bit back to face-to-face, and now this course is online. So, here we are, online again, right? So we've kind of adapted. Now, I have these 3 categories here because usually most persons fall into one of these categories as it relates to taking pictures or videos, right? And our topic today is gonna be, or the area that we're gonna cover in the next couple of weeks is gonna be cinematography in architecture, right? So just as a quick recap, in case some of you started the advanced computing 2 journey a little late, where is my recap? Hold on, let me bring up the recap here. Right. So if you remember when we just got started with advanced computing 2. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry. There we go. Right. You guys are seeing the screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
So if you remember when we started with advanced computing 2, we said we'd look at 4 different areas, which is going to be technology, graphics, storytelling, and film, right? So how we look on technology is that we talk about technology throughout the course, so that is always ongoing. Graphics, we've kind of just finished with the graphics part where we talk about information graphics, right? And then we're going to kind of move into film and storytelling. Storytelling is going to be like closer to the last part. Film is pretty broad. We're not just talking about moving pictures, we're also talking about stationary pictures as well. So that encompasses cinematography, photography, and all of that, right? And if you remember, the objective of advanced computing 2 is that, if this is the architectural sphere that has all the tools that we normally use in architecture, we kind of want to go beyond and explore tools that are used in other industries and see how we can pull it into architecture, right? So we're going to be moving on to the cinematography topic for the next couple of weeks. And we're going to make some marvelous discoveries because we are going to look on cinematography as it relates to the physical camera. Oh, sorry. Right. As it relates to the physical camera. So when I say physical camera, this is where we talk about things like these, right? So we're going to be looking on the physical camera aspects, and we'll try to get as much categories as we can. Then we are going to be looking on the virtual camera as well, right? So back here, right? And the virtual camera are the cameras that you find in, for example, Lumion, Twinmotion, whatever 3D programs you're using, ArchiCAD, Revit. Those programs have cameras in them. But in order to understand, to get a deeper understanding of those virtual cameras, we're going to take a look on the physical cameras, explore that a little bit for a couple of weeks, and then we jump into the virtual camera. And here's the trick, guys. Who here has done any form of 3D animation? Anybody? Any 3D animation for like your studio or
that in 3DM? Was it 3DM? Yes.
yeah, like 3D right? Don't matter if it's for school or for work or a project you're working on, whatever it is. So just one person, just Louis. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. All right, cool. Yeah. Tara, I see your hand. Horace, I see your hand as well. So here is my challenge to you guys. After this segment in the module, the next 3D animation that you make is going to be more cinematic. It's going to be more engaging, right? And even at the end of this module, it's going to probably even have a story to it. Because when we talk about story, it doesn't have to mean good guys and bad guys and, you know, some evil villain wants to take over the world and stuff like that. Story can be just about anything, right? So we're going to look on that. But before we jump into that part of it, we're going to look on understanding the physical camera. And then that way you will find automatically that you start to learn how to manipulate the virtual camera better. And that is how you're going to be better at producing your rendered images and your rendered 3D animations to let them look gorgeous. All right. Now, there is a silver lining that your study tour has been delayed a few times. All right. And I guess some of you saying, you know, what could that be? And there is an advantage. And I don't know if you remember, I said it at the beginning of the course that if your study tour happens to be delayed, then it kind of works out, I think, better for you in advanced computing too. Because at this point in the course, we start to talk about physical camera. And what's the number one tool you guys going to use when you go on study tour? Who can tell me? A what?
Sure, sketchbook.
Cell phone.
Okay, fine. You are going to use your sketchbook a lot. But I would argue that you may even use your camera or your phones, whatever you have, even more. Right? So a lot of times in the past years when I do this course, this module, the students come back from study tour and they say, but sir, why you didn't teach this before we go on study tour? And I say, well, you know, we can't start with that topic. We have to start with graphics. But then some years they go after we start with the physical camera, and then they get the benefit of this added knowledge when they go out in the field. So you guys would be going out there with at least this class or whatever we're going to do for this class. You'd be going out there with this knowledge, right? And we're not going to cover everything in one class. Usually this segment of the module takes about maybe 3 weeks, thereabout. Right. Also, there are can I do this thing here? that. And spotlight for everyone. Yeah, right. They are also later. Right. They are also there are two assignments that are associated with this part of the module, right? So we're going to do one assignment that's titled the physical camera, and we're going to do one that's titled the virtual camera, right? So, I don't know. I mean, if the study tour gets delayed again, then you will be even more prepared for going on the study tour. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that somewhat cushions the blow to the delay, right? So I don't know. We need one more delay in order to let to be at an advantage with this assignment. We just need one more week delay, right? So let's all hope that the study tour gets delayed one more week. And if that is so, then the first assignment can be a little easier. I don't know how you want to take that one. Anyway, so cinematography in architecture. So that's one of the first things we're going to look at. By the way, guys, sometimes I miss the messages. I'm trying to monitor it as when I'm talking. So if I don't get the messages, you can always just raise your hand and say, by the way, sir, I sent you a message. All right. Yes, I agree that it does make everything harder in the other modules. Oh, trust me, because like every time I work out my schedule, I'm like, okay, so this week we're going to do that, next week, and then there's a delay. And then, you know, and I'm sure the other lecturers go through that as well. But I know that there is like delays up in the upper echelons of the university, and we're getting like the ripple effects. That is what is happening. So, you know, I know that it's not out of spite that they're delaying it, but it's just really unfortunate. All I can say is at least we get to, you know, the later you go, you get to go with more knowledge from this module, which a part of it is about photography. I don't know. Anyway, so we are gonna well, firstly, I should have given the heads up. Well, I couldn't because I thought you wouldn't be here this week. So yeah. Anyway, I hope everybody has their phones. I'm hoping you guys can use it a little between this class and the next class. If you don't have any space, see if you can copy some stuff off your phone so you can get some space. Because we might need to take some pictures. We're just gonna do something small today, so you know, don't worry about it if you don't have all the space now. All right, so the first thing we're gonna look at is gonna be a little bit about cinematography and architecture. Right? So
I have here the very first photograph ever taken.
are you guys getting the audio? Just doing a mic check.
Yes, sir.
All right, great.
Not really, it's just a bad printout of it. The original is actually at the University of Texas at Austin. But that's beside the point. The image is a blurry impression of some buildings, a courtyard, and a roof. It was produced using a device called a camera obscura, a darkened room with a small hole or a lens on one side. This one was produced by covering up a window and leaving a small hole in the covering. Due to the way the physics of light works, a curious thing happens inside of a space like this. An image forms on the opposite side of the room from the hole, but the image is flipped upside down. The light rays converge through the small hole and they continue their angled path until they're projected onto the other wall. And that image that's projected is the view that one would have if they had their eye right up to the hole. It took an entire room to make this photograph, whose subject is the view of other buildings as seen through the frame of a window. Architecture is clearly an important part of photography. It is there at every level from the beginning. In fact, a lot of early photographs were taken of buildings, and this is because of the chemical processes used to etch the image onto the accepting material or substrate. It required a lot of time to properly react. In the case of that first photograph, it took 8 hours of exposing the bitumen-covered plate to produce that grainy picture. Not too many willing subjects can sit for so many hours, but buildings were uniquely up to the task. Over time, chemists have found ways to tweak the processes until they became quick enough to capture human subjects. But at first, they had to sit stiffly with no smile, because an image would still take a long time to form and people had to find a comfortable place that they could keep for a while. Contrast this with one of the most famous architectural photographers, Iwan Baan. He's famous for being able to capture the unexpected and quick-moving life inside of buildings and for being on the move himself. In a typical week, he might be in Basel, Switzerland on Friday, Saturday in Zurich, Monday in Bilbao, Tuesday Madrid, Wednesday Murcia, Thursday Cartagena, and Friday in New York. In fact, he spends only about 2 weeks a year in his own apartment, meanwhile racking up hundreds of thousands of airline miles to visit all the buildings that he's commissioned to photograph. He's the preferred photographer of almost every influential architect today, like Herzog and de Meuron, Rem Koolhaas, and Stephen Hall, among others. But what is it that makes him so popular as an architectural photographer? What is it about his images that stand out among the rest? Well, it does have to do with his desire for constant movement and how this shapes the way that he sees buildings. One of his go-to techniques is hopping into a helicopter to get away from his subject and be able to observe it from the sky. From here, he's able to capture how a building interacts with its surroundings, how it shapes them, and how they shape the building.
I already start.
For instance, after Hurricane Sandy, while half of Manhattan was plunged into darkness without power, Baan boarded in a helicopter and captured images of the city in its battered state. One of these made it onto the cover of the New Yorker magazine and became an iconic image of 2012. But once he lands on the ground, Baan is fascinated by how people behave in new spaces and how people explore them in this time of unease. Anyone might show up in the cast of his images, featuring their everyday activity with the architecture as their backdrop. A dog pulling a man along a bicycle, 2 joggers, a man on a phone, or a woman lugging her groceries. This idea of mobility and people are what makes photography so important to architecture in general. It's pretty difficult to view buildings in their native context, and this can be prohibitive for their study. Even more, some buildings are private and you wouldn't be granted access even if you did show up at their doorstep. But photographs, they move at the speed of light, and we can visit so many more buildings through their photographs than we can physically with our own bodies. The photograph becomes a sort of stand-in for when a building can't be where you want it. So architects really rely on photographers to be able to capture their design intentions. And this too is how certain architectural photographers become synonymous with certain architects or with architectural movements. And this is true for people like Julius Shulman. He was a photographer whose primary subject were modern houses during the 1940s through the 1960s in California. And while Iwan Baan has a more casual snapshot style, Shulman's photographs were highly constructed and meticulously staged affairs. Lighting, transparency, shapes, textures, and human models are all perfectly in their place to convey a life of affluence and leisure through good design. His case study House Number 22 in Los Angeles might be the most famous architectural photograph of all time. It features 2 well-dressed women conversing with a heroically cantilevered building hovering above the dancing lights of Los Angeles. While appearing spontaneous, the image is actually highly constructed. Through the camera placement and our focus, we as observers were like voyeurs looking into the action on the outside of an exclusive life of privilege. Early on in his career, Shulman worked for another photographer named Ezra Stoller. Rather than focusing on domestic environments like Shulman eventually did, Stoller's photographers were more abstract and heroic, showing spaces as sweeping curves springing from off a frame or highly contrasting textures and shapes. Stoller turned buildings into monumental works of art through his camera lens. Even in this early photo of a modest house by Walter Gropius and Marcel Breuer called the Chamberlain Cottage, the diminutive structure looks grand and impressive. This is all carefully constructed. Stoller agonized over every single detail of every photograph that he ever took, including things like the angle of the open window, and even how the logs are stacked up underneath the building. He told an interviewer in 1990 about his typical working method that I would wander around the building and make notes with arrows on the plans. When this was all done, I'd put a time next to each arrow, and when I was all through, the day would be gone. So the next day, hopefully it was a sunny day again, I'd go back and make all those pictures. A Stoller photograph could make your building famous, and the process of his images capturing and propelling a building to celebrity was called getting Stollerized. But eventually, over time, into the 1970s, architectural preferences and interests swung another way. There was no longer a desire to make the ordinary seem monumental and extraordinary. Instead, architects were more interested in the inherent beauty lurking inside of the ordinary. And architects like Venturi Scott Brown turned to photographers like Stephen Shore to capture the reality of everyday lives. They commissioned him to tour the United States as part of their show Signs of Life, which I talked about in the episode of Curb Appeal, linked up here somewhere. Shore helped the architects to pay attention to the average moments of life and not just the dramatic ones. He photographed main streets, but also car parks, road signs, gas stations, and shop fronts, as well as the furniture in his rented motel rooms and the food he had for breakfast. He used all sorts of cameras and hardly ever staged anything or even used a flash. This is almost the complete opposite of Shulman and Stoller. Shore would famously only take one shot of his subject though, and he would do very little editing of the image afterwards. Shore's approach to photography is both deadpan, straightforward, and unglamorous. He would say, "What I was trying to do was take pictures that looked like they weren't composed. I wanted to get away from the visual conventions of photography, the weight of tradition that informed how you were supposed to structure a photograph. Basically, I wanted to take screwy pictures, but intentionally screwy pictures." Venturi Scott Brown, the architects who commissioned Shore, they were pretty screwy too, and they designed architecture that tried to learn from the way that he was appreciating the world. They wanted to create buildings that revel in the unplanned and the everyday, and even to create buildings that would work like a picture. For instance, their design for the NFL Hall of Fame is called a building board, because the main inhabitable hall hides behind a giant flat image that's meant to be seen from the nearby highway. While very few photographers still take photos with actual film, and images have never been more easily shareable, architecture is consumed at an alarming rate. In lesser hands, this knowledge that a building might mostly be constructed for an image, it can lead to some cynical interpretations, where architects only design to produce the most Instagrammable image, while neglecting all the other parts of the building that are important. While this is certainly rampant, firms like Johnston Mark Lee have turned it into an art form. Their design process for the project called the Hill House actually begins with the famous Julius Shulman photograph that we talked about before, the one for the case study house. Rather than trying to make the building to produce a great image, they start with the photograph and produce the building from it. They take Shulman's image and through collage create new architectural possibilities. They erase parts of it, or at least color them in white, to imply a form for a building around the windows that strays from the familiar plans of the original. It reframes the interior condition without alluding to things like what materials the eventual building might be made from. The house itself then maintains the abstraction of the collage with a smooth, white, faceted form. It engages the hill like a gem popping out, and it actually completely fills out the buildable area of the site, which is controlled by various zoning regulations, and those actually give it the final form. A sculpture that is completely dependent on its context. The whiteness of the building, then, is both on the interior and the exterior, and it creates a complete visual contrast with the color and texture of the surroundings. And from the inside, this makes the window look even more like a picture hanging on the wall. In the end, the building isn't very similar to the one that's in Shulman's original photograph, but it will always have that association due to this part of its design process. And photography is actually really important to this house at all levels. The house
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, guys. So in that case, the designer kind of designs from the photographs. Did you guys? Oh, yeah. I see somebody's in the waiting room. Well, the waiting room is disabled, so they shouldn't have a problem coming in. Right. But anyway, so guys, did you hear what I said? So in that particular architect, they find an interesting photo, and then that influences the actual design. Pretty cool. Well, pretty different. I don't know if it's cool.
actually shows up in the Johnston Mark Lee's book called A House is a House is a House is a House. And in it, they challenge the conventional model where architects commission photographers to make the house look perfect or heroic. Instead, they choose to collaborate with the artists, who reinterpret the building in their own way. The voice of each feature photographer is made explicit as a kind of co-author, and the book presents multiple points of view of the same buildings. And this is where the strange name for the book comes from. A house is a house is a house is a house. Anyway, the Hill House shows up multiple times in the book in grainy, spooky night shots, comic book styled framed images with talk bubbles that animate the building, and some reminiscent of what Julius Shulman might do if he was alive today. But my favorite collaboration in the book is around another house called a sale house, and it's interpreted by the artist Livia Corona. She stages these elaborate scenes with elderly actors engaging in a series of absurd activities. The house has these intense colors on the interior, and the actors actually dress in the same colors as the architecture as they engage with these strange furniture inside of an otherwise barren spaces. Let's continue the conversation about architectural photography down in the discussion section.
All right. So, I think that there's like an interesting conversation between, right. Let me pin this. Yeah, lots of buttons today. Right. So I'm saying I think there's an interesting conversation between the relationship between architecture and photography, right? I mean, there is a technical side of it where in your field you will be required to take pictures, whether it's from a technical point of view, you're trying to get, the how far the construction is along. You're trying to maybe see different areas of a building. Maybe it's kind of a historical, technical, where you're trying to photograph the parts of a building. You guys will be doing a lot of that when you go on study tour, and you've done some of that already, right? Also, there's an artistic side of it as well, right? So, for example, there are there are many reasons why you would want to use photography to accentuate architecture. The number one money related reason is architecture is directly related to real estate, right? And real estate is still one of the more popular forms of investment, of making money, right? So, of course, when you have that expensive townhouse development or apartment development, the only way you need to show it off is through photographs. So, in a way, the photograph is serving the point of hopefully making a person interested in this space. And in order to do that, architecture is a part of that. Convenience is also a part, right? And also there's a like a emotion when you see the picture. Anybody ever went hunting for an Airbnb space? Anybody?
Yes,
Ever
sir.
stayed in an Airbnb space? Exactly. The number one thing that makes or breaks that space is the photographs. As a matter of fact, the Airbnb is kind of a weird category because I don't know about you, but if the pictures look a little too nice, it kind of feel like it's fake. But if it look horrible, you're really not going to stay there. I don't know if you've ever been in that kind of situation, right? You just want to see exactly what it is that you're getting, right? But in
Sir,
any
if it's
case,
too nice, you know it's a catfish. If it's too
right,
nice, it's too pristinely taken, you know it's not real.
exactly. There you go. So, but whether it's for that purpose or it is for the purpose of, you know, real estate and selling, or it just could be artistic, ephemeral, how does this make you feel? Look at this corner, look at this detail. The point of the matter is that there is a relationship between photography, or I would say cinematography, and architecture, right? And we're going to explore a little bit of that. And we're going to kind of start with photography and kind of go down that rabbit hole as it leads to videography and cinematography as well, right? So throughout it is throughout this part of the module that we're going to be introduced to some technical skills like doing some editing in Lightroom, or I know Lightroom is not free. I use this other one called Darktable, but anybody know of the app Lightroom? Anybody heard of that application?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. It is like the Photoshop for photographers. I guess you could say that. That sounds a little weird, but yeah. We're going to explore a little bit of that. Also, we're going to explore a little bit of video editing as well. We're going to touch on that a little bit. You know, I always say that that field is going to be, you know, in the future, everybody will be doing a video, you know, but we want to touch on it just a little bit as well, right? It's not a technical thing where you'll be learning the tool. It's more exploring cinematography, and we're going to use the tools to explore as well, right? So yeah, so we use the word cinematography because that encompasses photography, that encompasses images and video as it relates to architecture. So when you say the word cinematography, it doesn't necessarily only mean video, right? Of course, you hear the word cinema in there, but it's not only video and it's not only pictures as well. When you guys watch a movie and you see the credits roll up and you see like director of photography, but you just watched the movie. So why is there a director of photography, right? So cinematography is still a part of photography, right? So I want to show you this little table here. Let me spotlight, right? And are you guys seeing this slide okay? You know, is it fuzzy for anybody?
It's visible, sir.
It's visible for you. All right. I will take that to mean that it's visible for most persons, right? So so architecture is a visual field. We know this already. And there are many ways that it is visualized, right? The first, I guess you could say the first way that it has done that is through drawings and graphics, right? So of course there are floor plans and there are sections, there are technical documents, but then there are artistic, you know, drawings and illustrations, right? Next comes digital images, right? And when we said images, we're talking about photographs, renderings, anything in that realm. Next, we'll move down to video, right? Nowadays, for you to render 3D animation is so easy, right? If we have one day, I will show you an experiment that I was working on like only like 6 or so years ago. Because in the module 3D modeling, you had to submit a minimum of I think it was 40-second animation, right? You guys still do animation for 3D modeling, but there is no it's not 40 seconds. We just ask for a 360, right? Anybody remember that, by the way? It's not too far away. 3D modeling, second,
Yes,
third
sir.
year, right?
Third
And
year,
you had to
first
do a
semester.
little, you had to do a little animation, right? But in the past, we only limited to 30 seconds or 40 seconds, depending, because it on average took the student about 6 hours to render 3 seconds of video. You know, and we used to use the lab as a render farm, and I tell you, the good old days. We don't want to go back to that because real-time rendering has saved the day, right? So, but anyway, so we are at the stage where everything is a video, right? If you're capturing architecture, if you guys go on a study tour, it's not just images you're collecting, but you're collecting video. Every year, I don't know which year it is necessarily, but some years you have a some classes have a production for their study tour presentation, and usually it has some form of video. So that is kind of where we are. We're like in the middle of this era of, most things are videos and images because it's so easy to produce them. So the future where we're heading to is going to be interactivity, right? And this is where VR and AR and all these things come into play. And we're hoping that we can talk about this in this module as well. There's so much things to talk about. But that's kind of where we're heading. Now, I want you to look at these two terms here. So we have photography, right? Which is the practice of creating images by recording light, right? It's all about the light, right? And by doing it electronically using an image sensor, right? You get an official definition there. And videography refers to the electronic capture of moving images, right? So you hear people out there that are a photographer or a videographer, right? And it's pretty straightforward. If you're a photographer, you deal with still images, and if you're a videographer, you deal with moving images, right? But what then is a cinematographer, right? It's kind of a combination of the two, right? And before I spill the beans, right? If I gave you the clue that, okay, so a cinematographer is like, combining a photographer and a videographer, right? I'm wondering if somebody can tell me then, okay, so what is it that the cinematographer, what is the main defining factor of a cinematographer or cinematography? Anybody can tell me? What's the major defining factor? Or your opinion, you don't have to be right or wrong. Any opinions? Any
So it's
opinions,
like you're
Barn?
telling a story through the videos, you're telling a story.
Okay, cool. Cool. Anybody else? That answer was a little warm. So, yep, you are kind of close. Nobody else? Let me ask you another question. Like if I showed you a video clip, right? I'm not going to show you the video clip yet, but use your imagination. If I showed you a video clip, Barneswell, I said, Barneswell, look at this video clip. And Barneswell look at me and say, whoa, that clip is so cinematic. What does Barneswell mean by cinematic? Like, why is the clip cinematic?
So that's a combination of different elements coming together. So it's not just like a plain video or just like a regular thing. But yeah, it's quite similar to what you showed us at the beginning of the class when all these stuff are coming together. And
Right. So there's something special about cinematography then that makes it different from photography or videography. Right. And we're going to try and hunt down exactly what that difference is, and then we're going to try to apply that in architecture. Because it's the same thing. Like if you're doing an animation of your studio project or you're doing a project for your workplace, I mean, you want it to be cinematic. But then what is cinematic? You know what I
Sure,
mean?
I have it. You want to hear my thoughts?
Yes, definitely. Go ahead.
Sarah, when we think of like cinematic media, we think of movies. So I'm guessing it has to do with lighting, sound, and a combination of all of those things to create a visual narrative or even a genius loci in the in the context of architecture. So it's like evoking a mood of, a space or something like that.
Ah,
It involves
yes.
skillful planning and coordination, sir.
True, true. There are some words that you mentioned. All of those words are nice to hear. Coordination, planning, and mood, right? That is an interesting one, right? Like, I mean, if you've been to the movies and you watch like a kind of a hero story. I'm trying to think of a movie that we both might have watched in the same timeline. So I don't seem that old because I'm not really that old. I'm just a little bit older than you, right, guys? Right? Transformers or Avengers, that the Endgame one, right? Like, I need to find that clip, but I'm sure most people here watch it. So like when the battle is about to start and you have all of the heroes on one side and then you have all of Thanos's dudes on the other side, and the battle is about to start, that is cinematic. It's like you know so it's kind of like it's setting a mood, it's setting a tone. I mean, yes, you have the technical stuff, like the planning. So, what camera angle are we using? What camera are we using? What file format are we going to use? You have these technical things. But when you're there in the theater and you see like the battle is about to pop off and you just get this mood, this emotion. And that emotion is coming to you from the screen. And culturally, I guess we kind of just describe that as cinematic, or some people call it movie magic, right? But then I think we kind of feel that, I mean, every time I watch a very nice, like animation done by, I don't know, it could be your favorite architect or your favorite visualization company, like you get a same kind of chill. It's not the same thing as seeing aliens come down from the sky, but you look on something and you say, wow, that's so awesome, or that that entrance is so magnificent, and what gives you that emotional feeling is a combination of multiple things. It's the music and it's the rendering and it's the camera angle and it's the technology used. So cinematography is kind of like in a way the Avengers of all these things, right? So you have all these things coming together to generate an emotion. That's really what's at the heart of cinematography. And you can generate that emotion for architecture. And that's what we hope to track down. Like, how can we get that emotion, right? Which is kind of similar to the movie that we watched at the beginning of the module. So we're going to try and chase that dream a little bit, right? And we're going to explore how we can combine the principles, how do we create cinematography? Like, what is the rule book? What are the steps of doing that? And if we should break it down we can try and simplify it. It is combining the principles and elements of design with photography and videography. And I know that it sounds like really simple, but those are like some of the primary ingredients, right? This is like some of the primary ingredients. And you might look at this and say, oh, but this, I mean, can my 3D animation of my architectural design let somebody feel like when they were watching Endgame and the battle is about to kick off? And the answer is yes, right? So we're going to dive a little bit more on these things, right? So cinematography is the art and technology of motion picture photography, right? So there are two interesting words in this definition. That's why it's my favorite. And it's the word art and technology, right? So you can't have cinematography without the art. what is the art? The art is, the way you hold the camera and how you give it a little style, or, some persons would call it a swagger. It's a style, it's a thing that you do and it feels artistic, right? But you still need the technology. You have to understand, what a camera is, and what is focal length, and what is f-stop. Because without knowing those things, you're leaving out the technology part of cinematography. And you need the technology, and you also need the art as well. So we break it down into 3 things, right? And this is how we're going to tackle it for the next couple of weeks. We're going to look on the technology aspects just a little bit. I mean, you guys know that there are like 4-year courses on just photography, right? So we're doing it in a couple of weeks. So obviously, we're not going to dive down in the science of it. We're going to take what we want from it and carry it over to architecture. We're going to look on understanding lighting. And I guess you guys would agree, lighting is a major part of expressing architecture, right? I mean, in first year, you did light and shadows, and how those shadows and how you can use shadows to make a building exciting, how you can use the play of shadow on a building facade. So light is, we already need to know about light, definitely, right? And the last thing is going to be about camera position, movement, the style, the swagger, the thing that you do to make it special. Those are the 3 things that we're going to look on in this part of the module, right? And we're going to do it for a physical camera, which means that you guys are going to actually physically take pictures and stuff. And then we're going to do it for a virtual camera, right? Where we're going to jump into Twinmotion or Lumion, and the same things, the same lessons that we learned from the physical, we're going to apply to the virtual. And then what I want you guys to do is to compare an animation that, for those of you who did the animation before, compare animation that you did earlier before, using all of these cinematography things, before and after. And then, hopefully you will see an improvement in how you portray architecture when you know these things. All right. All right. So, it's still 4:30, right? And before daytime sets in, I want us to take some pictures. It don't matter where you are, could be home, office, wherever. I'm gonna want you guys to use whatever device you are gonna use for the assignment for this segment of the module. I want you to use that device to take some pictures. This is just an activity. It's not the actual assignment, right? But I just want you to get kind of used to your device, because we're going to deal with the technology part first, right? Of this, of our little journey here. So I want you guys to kind of feel out the technologies that you have. And I also want you to tell me, so when we come back, you're going to tell me, like, what kind of technology device do you have? Like, what phone do you have, right? So because we're going to talk a little bit about the specs, right? So I want to, before we go on our break though, by the way, is it overcast or raining for anybody currently, wherever you are?
Drizzling, sir.
Oh, it's drizzling. Oh man. Well, that's okay. You can still just take a random shot, you know? Don't get your phone wet or whatever. And guess what? It can be inside as well. Doesn't have to be outside. This is just a random. I just want you to use the technology you have to take a picture of something that you consider interesting. All right. And we're going to look at some of them. And we're going to talk a little bit about the camera. So I have a picture here And everybody know where this is, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. It is Turtle Park in Ocho Rios. Right?
What?
It's not there. It's not Turtle Park in Ocho Rios.
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
is this not Emancipation Park?
Oh,
I tripping?
good. That means you guys are paying attention. I was just pulling your strings, right? So yes, indeed, it's Emancipation Park. Just a random shot. So I have one shot here, and then I have another one here. They're kind of the same areas, but not exactly. One is like further down, looking right, you know. But I have these two pictures here, right? And put them side by side. So what are some of the differences you notice about this picture? Anybody? I know they're not exactly the same exact thing, but it's roughly the same place.
Sir, the one on the left is more interesting because it's almost symmetrically balanced.
Okay, cool. Cool. Let's hear from some other people. Any thoughts about these two pictures?
The tone on the left one, sir.
What about it? It's better or worse?
It's more along the vivid side, sir.
Vivid. All right, Lee. Vivid. Anybody else? Who was our resident photographer again? It was Alessandra. Was it you?
I think yes.
uh, anybody else? Okay, all right. Which picture is nicer? From somebody who didn't answer before. Which picture is nicer?
One on the left, sir.
The one on the left. All right, fair enough. All right, you got the easy part of the question. Brittany Byfield. Why is the one on the left nicer?
I think the one on the right, the colors look better, but
Okay.
the one on the left, the image is taken better. So,
All right, cool. Well, I like how you guys use these words of better, nicer. Like all of these things is kind of wrapped up in the magic of cinematography, right? Which it is not really a mathematical thing. It's not like the image on the left has 52 pixels of this, that, and is 20 inches from the, it's not necessarily a mathematical thing. It's partially an emotional thing as well. I mean, both images are exposed, okay. It's not like the one on the right is darker, is like you can't see everything. You can see everything on both. But the one on the left is definitely more, somebody used the word drama, or was it dramatic? I think you use. And that is like the brother, the sister, the cousin of cinematic, right? Dramatic, cinematic, drama, cinema, right? So, I mean, yes, there is some color correction, or one would say some photoshopping or some light rooming, but that obviously is not the only thing that makes the image nice, because both of these images are, it's kind of have this focal point, kind of symmetrical, but not 100% symmetrical, right? But the one on the left, you know, funny enough, this was taken by Kenrick Bash, and I think I reached the point now where I can be proud of students that I thought and they went further ahead in life and they take these amazing pictures, and I can say, whoa, yes, I know you learned something from advanced computing too, right? So hopefully I'll be showing some of your pictures maybe, but I don't know where I'll be in a couple years time, but So yeah, so the image on the left that was taken by Henrik Bash, and he loves architectural photography. But everybody in like you don't graduate from architecture without just taking a bunch of pictures, right? And I think most of us realize too late how important photography is in architecture. You know, because we think photography and we say, oh, you know, you need to take passport size pictures and blah, blah, blah. And you need to, you know, wedding pictures. And I mean, that's only one small part. The part of photography that you guys use in everything from the sheet that you lay out to the renderings that you do in Twinmotion. If you don't explore photography, you're missing a big chunk of things to learn, right? And I can just introduce you to it. It's up to you to go down that road. Don't make the same mistakes that I made, because I was just like, I can take pictures. I have a phone. What's the point? You know, I have a good phone. I can take a picture. Why is photography so important to architecture? So we're going to learn that as we go along, right? So I have another picture here, and I have another picture here, right? By the way, both of these pictures, on the left is one that's from a CSA student that did advanced computing too, right? I'm really selling the AC2, right? Anyway. And then the one on the right is from some public website. In this case, this is from I think it was Travelocity or one of those, you know, Visit Jamaica tourist website. In the case of this one, this was also from Kenrick, and this one was from the Gleaner, right? Right. And who can tell me what building this is?
It's the biomedical center over by UE.
Oh, and the answer goes to Rodrina. You win the virtual prize, right? So you are correct, right? And as usual, I'll put them side by side. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jeremy? Which one of these pictures you think is what's the term you guys use nowadays? Um Slapping? Is that how you say it? Which one of these pictures are slapping?
Sure, the one on the left, the colors are more it's more lighter and more like refreshing. It's like a nice vibe. So I'm seeing the one on the left. It's more sharp and crisp. Yeah.
Cool. All right. All right. Anybody else want to share any thoughts? Or if I call more name. Long time I don't hear from Tara Fisher. What are you doing, Tara? What do you think of these two pictures? Tara? Here?
I'm here, sir.
Yeah, what do you think of these two pictures? Which one of them you like better?
The left.
And of course, the next question is, why do you like that one?
The clarity of the composition of the image. But I prefer the quality on the right hand side, but the filter on the left.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, cool. The one on the right has more contrast. All right. So one of the other interesting things about cinematography is that a part of it is very subjective. All right, you're entering into the subjective zone, right? But the subjective zone is only I would say a small part. Like majority of persons would agree that okay, the picture on the left is nicer. But there might be things on the picture on the right that you think are also nice as well. You know, maybe vibrancy is a style, is a thing that you like, you know? But then you have to just ask yourself the question again. Yeah, but the picture on the left is just so nicer. So we're going to look at some of those things that make it nice. And of course, what works for a photo, you add to it to make it also work for a video as well. So we're going to try to tackle both of them in one go. All right. All right. So these are some other pictures. This one is in Trinidad that Kenrick took. This is one that I took about 2 years ago, thereabout. I was taking some pictures of this building that's going for, it's like a Airbnb, let's call it that, something like that. All right. This is another past CSA student, Richard Nato, right? And right, and he take some lovely pictures. Let me see. I always try to see if I can get some of these people to come back to talk about how advanced computing tool really helped them in their photography journey. And well, I'm just messing. But I did put links on the mirror board, the class mirror board. So here we go. Right. So I have some links here. I think he has a website. Yes, he does. Dimensions. All right. So hold on, let me click on that and open that there. And here we go. Right. And I did some work with him as well. I think he needed some drone pictures, and he took some for me, But I think the work is really good. And in this case, this, just like that opening video that we watched of that architectural photographer that takes pictures, but it's in the US. I mean, the same thing, if not even nicer opportunities exist in Jamaica, just because of the richness of just the lush and the greenery and the vibrance and the colors. I mean, that's kind of our expression in that part of the world. So it makes for much nicer pictures, right? Anyway, so you guys can check this out on your own if you want, all right? But I just wanted to share some of these shots. I will dig up this project to do some other, to look on some other things. This picture here was taken with an iPhone, right? Actually, my wife's iPhone to be exact, because I don't own an iPhone. I remember talking to Kenrick about this picture. This quality isn't so nice, but actually Kenrick donated a picture that he did in the CSA office. I think a high resolution version of this. I think it's still there. It's on a nice little framed thing in the office, so you guys can check it out. I remember when Kenrick was in my advanced computing class too, he had his camera. The one thing I remember about him is that at that time, and believe me, this was like 2016, so it wasn't that long ago. And at that time, we were still online, right? So remember, well, you guys know, I mean, advanced computing in architecture was always digital pre-COVID, right? Anyway, Kenrick was the one that always let me have to get more space for my Google Drive, because all his pictures and videos were in the gigabytes, and I threatened to not mark his work because he kept sending me these large files. And I said, Kenrick, I just need a small file. And he used to send me. Anyway, fun times, right? Anyway, so this was done with a professional camera. This was a SLR camera, right? It's one of the big, the bulky ones, like what I showed you guys earlier. This project, the entire project was done with an iPhone. And I shot all of these pictures. And then I don't remember what camera Natu has, but he goes between iPhone, but he has his professional camera, like even nicer ones than what Kenrick used at the time. So he has a very nice setup as well. So this is where we're at now. We're talking about the technology behind cinematography. Then we're going to move to the lighting. Then we're going to look at camera position, movement, and that stuff. After which you will do the first assignment. So I want to kind of start with how the camera works. But I think, what time is it? Based on the time, I'm gonna just leave you guys with this question. And we're going to tackle it when we come back. Right? I mean, what do you think, Maurice?
About answering it when we come back.
Yes, all right. About answering it when you come back. We'll continue discussion when you come back.
You wanted me to answer now?
All right, leave us with the answer now before we take the break for today.
Because to this
What's
question,
your opinion?
In this day and age, not necessarily, because a lot of great technology can be compacted into something so tiny and minuscule.
True.
So
True.
that's my answer to that.
So you would I give you $1,000 today. No, how much is for the new iPhone 15? Like 1,500?
Probably like 1,200.
Like
probably
right.
like 12. Yeah, 1,200.
So I give you $1,200 today. Are you gonna run out and buy an iPhone or a camera?
Well, I mean, to get I'm not sure if with that $1,200 I can get like, like will the camera be able to do exactly what the iPhone can do? Because the iPhone can do a lot of things.
That is true. So what are you going to buy with the $1,200 that I just gave you?
So
which one?
It depends on what I want to do. I'll probably get the iPhone because it can capture the image just like a camera. And again,
Right,
on
cool.
that same very iPhone, you can start to edit it and do other stuff.
All right, cool. Tara, what you gonna do with the 1,200 US that I'm gonna give you? Tara Thomas, because the other Tara went already. What you say? iPhone?
Sure. I'm not sure what I'll do with it.
You're not
Depends.
sure?
Yeah, camera. Yeah.
I think pretty much everybody has a phone in this class already. Right? So if I give you the 1,200, and as far as I checked earlier when I said who have a camera, I didn't see any hands go up. Some more persons came in the class, so let me ask again. Is there anybody here that has a camera, like has a mirrorless camera, a SLR, DSLR camera, one of the big bulky ones? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. So, Kings. Well, you have a camera already, but okay, fine. I give you $1,200. You don't have a camera. You have a phone. What are you going to use the $1,200 on buy?
Camera, sir.
You're going to buy a camera? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Save your answer for when we come back. All right. Who else don't talk to me from there? Manika.
I would buy a camera, so.
You'd buy a camera? Or which one?
I'd buy the camera, so.
You'd buy the camera, okay. You have an iPhone already?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Let me up it. I give you which one of the iPhone you have?
The 14 Pro Max.
Oh, you have the 14 Pro Max. All right. It don't make sense. I said 15.
So if you up that one anymore.
Yeah,
no,
open
not
it. Exactly. So your thing is okay. Might as well I get the camera because I already have the iPhone. So all right, makes perfect sense. But guess what? Most people face this choice. Most people have a camera, and some people might have. Remember earlier when we looked at our options from earlier, right? So some persons might have a phone like this, which is a more economical phone, and you get the $1,200. This, I'm interested to see what these persons will say, right? Because they have a phone, it's a A series phone, so it can take a picture, but it's nowhere good. What would you do with that $1,200? You're gonna get a Pro Max or a digital camera. So I'm gonna save that question for when we come back. For those of you who already have a high-end phone, like the Pro Max, or in this case, this is a Fold, or one of the S22, 23. I kind of losing track of them. What would you do with the $1,200, right? Because you'd be like, oh well, I already have a good phone, right? And some of us already have a camera, right? And know what a camera can do. The question is it worth it? Like, do I need a dedicated camera? I'm not a photographer. I'm in architecture, right? So why would we need that? So we're gonna look a little bit on the technology today. So when we come back at 6, I want you guys to, whatever camera device you have, just take a picture of something interesting, whatever it is. Could be something on your table, a tree outside, a building. If it's raining outside, something inside. And I'm interested to also know what device you use to take the picture. All right. And then we'll come back. We're going to finish up this to talk about the technology. Like, what's the real difference? Why get a camera? And then what to expect when you guys go on study tour, for those of you who have a high-end phone versus a economical phone versus a camera here. All right, guys, so that is our first session for today. I don't think that it will be a long class today. I think we can get through most of the stuff. Yeah, so it's going to be the regular. I think we can get through most of the stuff. I know that some of you are working on assignment 2, so if you have any questions for your assignment 2, we can try and fit that in the latter part or the first part of the course, whichever. All right, on your assignment 2. Okay, so we will continue this episode when we get back at 6. All right, guys.
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So remember to fix the submission link, sir.
Yes, the submission link. We'll get I will sort that out. All right. Okay, guys, I will see you in a few. All right.
At 6, yes, sir, right?
Yes, at 6.
Sir.
Yep.
Sir, assignment 2. Assignment 2 is due next Monday, right? Just making sure, Infographics.
Yes, it is, because it's supposed to be 2 weeks. I've been holding off on confirming the deadline because we kind of have a moving target with the study tour. But I hope, yes, that is the plan, and I hope that everybody's working on it, not just waiting for study tour. Just try and knock it out. All right, because we already passed that segment in the course. All right, so
Okay.
So yes, so we'll talk about the deadline next week and do like a what if study tour is actually next week, or if it's not next week, what will happen.
Okay.
All right, cool.